Hello, naked truthers. How the hell are y'all? So, I've been thinking about grief and the way that it shows up for me. And if I truly allow myself to feel it, acknowledge it, sit with it, or have I been in a place of suppressing it? And I really had to dive deep and just reflect on these last 2 years and see where I stand now. And one of the things that came to mind as far as healing and this transition into motherhood is shifting my perspective on the C-section, right? And if y'all have been following me for a minute, you know my story behind the C-section being unplanned, unexpected, unwanted, and me desiring to have, a water birth inside of a birthing center, but things didn't go that way. And so me and my beautiful baby girl, we had to go to the hospital, but we're both here, we're both alive, and that's all that matters, right? And so I had been struggling with just accepting and letting go of how I desired my birth story to go, my birthing plan, how I wanted it, how I pictured it, right? I've been struggling to accept that it didn't go that way for me. I've been struggling to let that go, right? And I don't know why, it just bothered me deeply. And a part of me has felt like, my body didn't do what it was supposed to do. Like, I'm a woman. I should have been able to push my baby out. My body failed me, or whatever the case may be. I've had some interesting thoughts along the way, right? And they haven't all been pretty at all. Some of them have been a little on the dark side and just mentally and emotionally abusive to myself. Like, I've allowed my thoughts to be my own bully, to be the executioner of me, right? To keep me hostage in this prison of guilt, of just blame, of stress, of just feeling like it was all my fault for how things played out, right? Instead of being in a place of peace with how it went, instead of being in a place of acceptance, instead of being in a place of gratitude in a sense. And I can't say that I didn't have any gratitude at all, because like I said, I was very grateful that everything went well and me and my baby girl was able to walk out of that hospital together, right? But it's just like I've been in this place of rehashing the past over and over and over in my mind, and it's kept me tied down. It's been like this anchor that's been haunting me, this heavy weight, this black cloud, this armor of negative or heavy, dense as energy, right? Because I've been wallowing in it. And don't get me wrong, I was broke free. I feel like it's been layered. It's not just one, okay, yeah, healed, all right, I thought about it, it's done. No, it's been layers. I've had to pull back and go through and dig myself out of the hole times and time again, because I've allowed the pendulum in my mind to swing back and forth, right? And I've allowed my thoughts to bury me deep down into this grave of just thoughts that are not healthy, that are not for my highest good. Like, they don't serve a purpose other than me sabotaging myself, pretty much. And so I've been thinking, like, all right, let's do a perspective shift, right? Because if everything is, written in this blueprint, and our soul signed a contract, and, we chose what we wanted to experience in this lifetime, they say everything is already laid out, right? Destiny, fate, right? And then you have the case of free will. But when it comes to birth and pregnancy and how the child chose you to be their parent, right? And how things are just laid out in the cosmos when you look at astrology and where the planets and things were stationed during the time that you were giving birth and what they were doing, right? Whether it's a transit or, what was going on from that aspect, from that perspective, what was going on from the perspective of cardology too, because, listen, the cards, they tell a story. They tell a deep ass story, right? And I say all this, not to get caught up in the, I guess, the esoterics and the tools, right? The outside tools. But it's just like a puzzle that all came together for me. Like, there's finally no missing pieces, right? Because it's finally all making sense to me. It's all coming full circle during this perspective shift, right? And so if I think of it as, okay, so things were meant to happen how it was meant to happen, right? It was meant to be this way. This is how it played out, right? And I'm no longer sitting here trying to dissect the why anymore, because I was stuck on that part for a very long time. The why. Why did it go this way? Why did I have to have a C-section? Why, universe, did you give me a child that my body, for its own reasons, didn't push out? Why did I end up in hospital? Like, the why will drown you. The why will keep you deeply depressed. The why will smother you, sabotage you. The why is not your friend in certain cases, right? And don't get me wrong, it's nothing against asking questions to find out deeper answers, right? To get that clarity. Like, I'm all for clarity. But sometimes when you are in your head and you're allowing your thoughts to run you, that why is your worst enemy, right? Especially if you are asking the why from a victim perspective and not more so from okay, what was the deeper lesson, or what can I take away from this, or how can I grow from this? How can I turn my pain into purpose? How can I use this trauma to become something that inspires other people, or that helps, encourages, uplifts other people, right? Or that may even give other people a reality check. You know what I'm saying? So I was using the why in the wrong way. I was using it as a mental axe instead of a gentle caress. And I stopped. And I was looking from the perspective of, okay, so what if the C-section was a form of protection and I just didn't know it, right? For whatever reason, right? And I believe in the body being its own intelligent as, just this own intelligent, I can't even think of the word that I want to say right now, being, or like this own intelligent, my brain is going blank, but there's a specific word that I'm looking for. But it's just like this, it has its intelligence. It knows, right? The body knows how to heal itself. It knows what to do. And when you put in the disruptions and the interference, it can slow it down, right? And I began to think like, okay, so what if the C-section was a form of protection in that moment, instead of seeing it as like the enemy, right? For whatever reason, my body decided to not dilate past the 4 centimeters, right? And I'm sure that 4 is significant too, because the number 4 is very prominent in my life. Not only is it my life path number, but it is very much so throughout my numerology chart as well, right? And the numbers speak, right? They speak. I feel like the universe talks in numbers, but they speak and they have their frequencies. And so I haven't really took a deep dive into the fact that it kind of paused at the 4 and what that could mean. But what I did consider and what I did dive into was my C-section being a form of protection in that moment, right? My body, it was tired. I was tired. I was exhausted. Honestly, well, I don't want to count myself out for being able to push out a baby. I won't say that I didn't have it in me to push it out. Yes, I was tired, but I'm also resilient. And I feel like it could have been done, right? However, I just think about that moment and the level of exhaustion I was in, the level of pain I was feeling. And I honestly did, in that moment of being in the hospital, because I was there for like 3 days, I did feel defeated in a sense, right? My mindset wasn't the best, things weren't going as planned. And I had begun to worry a bit, especially, when they were telling me that my daughter was, she was small. She was only 4 pounds, but she was also smaller than where she was supposed to be. And, the stress of everything that's been going on. She was a fighter though, but the stress of, being in there without, with the water broken and all this stuff, right? So it was just a lot. And then, hearing like, okay, well, she's beginning to come under stress and her heart rate is, it was basically dropping and then going back to normal, and then it would drop and then it would go back to normal. So it was like going up and down, right? And so that within itself kind of just began to freak me out as well. But back to the protection part, because I'm just like, this is the way it was supposed to go. And I don't know, I feel like a sense of peace within that. Because what if I had pushed out my baby, right? And things went wrong. And don't get me wrong, things can go wrong in the C-section too. But I was just thinking, like, if it wasn't meant for me to have a C-section, I wouldn't have had one. And I know a lot of people will sit here and be like, well, it probably wasn't meant for a lot of people to have a C-section because, the doctor can coerce you into it, or they give the Pitocin, and inducing causes stress upon the baby, and, all the interference in the hospital, and the body not being able to relax, or, the mom laying on her back, and that's like the worst position to be in to give birth. And just all of these things that add up to birth being delayed, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody or every woman that has received a C-section in their life, like, it was meant to be that way, because I don't know the depths of their story, so I can't make that call. But for me, and the way that I see things, and the way that I believe, and the way that I feel that life goes, right? My thoughts on just the way the blueprint is set up for me, I've come to accepting that, okay, it went this way because it was meant to, right? And everything happens for a reason. And it's so cliche. And even when I tried to tell myself that in the beginning, I was like, yo, fuck that line, everything happens for a reason. It didn't happen the way I wanted to. But sometimes things don't happen the way you want them to as a form of protection. And that is why I shifted my perspective. Because what if I had received delivering my baby vaginally and it didn't go right? You know what I mean? I keep thinking about that part. I wanted what I wanted, but I feel like I got what was best for the both of us, right? Because I did actually experience health complications afterwards, right? And so I just sit here and I think about a time where I like really, really wanted something and I got it. And I was like, just not satisfied with what it was. But I feel like the universe gave it to me to allow me to see, like, this is why we were not allowing for you to receive this. But since you keep asking for it, I'm gonna hand it to you just so you can get this lesson, right? And then I realized, like, okay, this is not in alignment with me at all. This is not what I want. But I thought it was. And I just kept asking for it. Why am I not getting it, right? Because we want what we want. Oftentimes not realizing that that want could be the death of us, whether it's metaphorical or literally, right? And so I'm just like, maybe, just maybe, it was a form of protection, you know? Maybe my body knew, like, okay, no, we can't let this baby come vaginally for whatever reason. And I feel like I might sound crazy to somebody out there, like, nah, you're just trying to rationalize for your own healing's sake. You know, and that's cool. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But it does make sense in my mind, though. And like I said, when you go back to the deeper sciences, right? Because I've had people look into this for me. I've had somebody go through my chart during the time that I had baby girl. And for the life of me, I cannot repeat back the exact alignment of the planets and things and the way it was broken down to me. But what I can say is something was dealing with Mars. And it was basically equating to the energy of a knife and being cut and having to have surgery, right? That was in my chart during the night that I had my C-section. The way that things were aligned up in the sky as well as in my chart, and it dealt with, you know, showing the energy of surgery, of being cut, right? Which a C-section is, you know, having to be cut through the 7 layers, right? And then I also had somebody break down the cardology energy for me a couple days ago. Well, yeah, about a week or so ago. And the card of the C-section, I want to say it was an 8 of spades. If you look up, if you spell it out fully, not just the word C-section, but actual cesarean, and you look up the card, I believe it was 8 of spades, and that showed up in my spread, right, during that time. And so there was also another card there. Damn, I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was like the 9 of spades. It was a couple of cards there, but I was told that, you know, there was the energy of death there. And, you know, and she asked me, she was like, did you almost die? Because, you know, this spread is showing like you had a near-death experience, like you could have died in, you know, during the whole childbirth experience. And I was like, well, technically I didn't go through anything that was like, okay, we lost her, she flatlined, or anything like that, you know, bring me back kind of vibe. But, you know, it was a bit of a slippery slope for a bit. And then she was talking about like a metaphorical death in a sense too, since I didn't experience like a physical one. But it was all there. Like, she could literally tell me my story without me telling her my story, if that makes sense. She could look at the cards and be like, okay, well, it shows up right here, like the C-section on this day, on this plate, at this age. Like, the energy of the C-section was surrounding you, right? Of how it was to go. And the energy of me and my daughter together, like our cards together. I know this might sound like gibberish to people who don't study these sciences, and I get that. So just bear with me for a moment. The energy of me and my daughter together is the 6 of spades, which is fated. And so when you think about all of that, right? It goes back to me saying, like, it was meant to be how it played out. I was supposed to have a C-section. It's literally shown everywhere. It's shown astrologically. It's shown from a cardology perspective. Me and my daughter were fated in this lifetime. Like, I can't make it up. Just like it was meant for me to have her at age 33, which I always knew. Intuitively, I knew that I would have my first child at age 33 and she would be a girl. When I got pregnant, I knew it was a girl already. I didn't need anybody to tell me. But did I still get a gender test? Yes. And it was my girl. And I knew that, right? Everybody thought it was a boy. It was like, oh no, your stomach is sitting this way, you have a boy. And I'm just like, no, it's my girl, right? And so that was confirmed. And when I got pregnant at 32, and I knew I would be delivering her by the time I was 33, I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I can't make this up. It was just like an intuitive knowing, right? And so with all that being said, like, just the knowing of the gender, the knowing of the age of, like, when I would become a mom, right? And the significance of the number 33, right? And just seeing, like, all of this, like, finally coming full circle for me, because putting it all together, the cards, the astrology, my mind can finally be at rest. I can finally accept. I can finally apologize to my own body for accusing it of failing me, because I know that it didn't. I can have that forgiveness, that compassion, that grace for myself, and that love that I need to pour into myself, because I'm no longer at this space of blaming myself or my body for the way things played out. We're all dealt a hand. We're all dealt, cards in this lifetime. The way we play them is up to us. However, the way that they were originally aligned, I don't feel like that shifts. Do I feel like free will exists? Yeah, to a certain extent. To a certain extent. But I do feel like that which is fated has more power over free will. And I also feel like it's a interesting dance between free will, destiny, fate. I feel like it can be a thin line between the three of those, right? And oftentimes I feel like that line can be blurred. It's kind of like when people say, oh, this person was in the wrong place at the wrong time, which led to either injury or, something worse like death. And I often ponder upon that statement, right? Because it's like, were they really? And it's not to say that anybody got what they deserve, right? And I'm not saying that. But it just makes me think deeper, like, were they really in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was it just their time to go? Was it just orchestrated like that in their blueprint, in their soul contract, and what they came here to experience? I think about that. especially when it comes to children when they pass. Like, I wonder, like, okay, so their souls signed up to check out at a young age, and sometimes I do ask myself, well, why? Like, you know, what did their soul want to experience or leave behind? Like, what was the legacy? And a lot of times you'll look at some of these stories and something was passed because of the way that child left this world, right? Whether it's a law that passed or act, or something was put into motion, and it was like the child had to be the sacrifice in order for that to happen, right? It's not always a child, it can be an adult too, but it was just like something, they had to be that sacrifice in order for that movement to initially take place. And so I think about that. So is there truly wrong place at the wrong time? I think about that often. It makes me think about the saying of turning your pain into purpose, right? Instead of getting lost in it or weighed down by it or holding on to it so tightly to where it doesn't allow you to really live and enjoy life, right? You turn it into a purpose. You allow it to help you guide others along their healing journey. And so I feel like we all came here to experience whatever it is that, we were meant to experience. And with that experience and through the healing process comes the wisdom that we then put out into the world, whether it's through speaking, whether it's through some kind of art or teaching a class, or pretty much just showing up, being present, taking up space, expressing yourself, sharing your story. Because I feel like we all have a story to share, and there's someone somewhere that needs your particular story. They need to hear it from your mouth. They need to feel your frequency, right? Just because someone may have experienced something similar to you doesn't mean that their experience and the way that they express it is healing for the next person. That person may need it to come from you. And so I think about that too. Like, we go through these things so that we can be that beacon of light for those who may be in the phase of the darkness as far as what it is that's being experienced, right? And so when it comes to the transition to motherhood for me, of course it looks different than what other women may have experienced. And I'm sure there are some similarities, right, that we can all agree on when it comes to motherhood as women. But we all have our individual experiences as well. There's someone out there that could have had an amazing birth story, and I love that for them. I love seeing women have like these peaceful birth stories. Nothing crazy happened. Like, they had the baby pretty quickly. All went well. No health complications. Both mom and baby are healthy. Like, that gives me life, because that's the way it should be, right? That's the way it should be. And so I love seeing stories like that. And then you have those stories that didn't go as planned or didn't go so well. And it's like, I feel you. Like, I understand deeply. Like, I can relate. You know what I'm saying? And so we all have our individual experience of what may have been a similar experience, but it hits everybody different. And everybody takes a different piece of the experience. And now it's your own piece to share to the world, right? It's kind of like a big ass mosaic of everybody's experience, but at the same time, it's abstract art when you think about it, right? Because it's like each individual piece of the art is like a line in a poetry stanza. That's just how I see it. And so I'm at a place where it's like, okay, I'm ready to show back up. I'm ready to be back to this place of just liberation, of just being authentically me, unapologetically me. Like, that's where I am. I miss that. And so I finally feel good, like, inside. I don't feel weighed down anymore. I have been in this, like, this heaviness, this darkness, this sort of like a depressive state, but still showing up every day, still being present, right? And doing my best to not let it weigh me down or hold me back. And it's been a fight. It's been a mental fight. It's been a physical fight too, emotionally as well. But I feel like I finally made it to the other side. Like, I feel like I finally made it through the dark ass tunnel that I was trying to navigate through with a dim ass light, right? And I feel like the light within me is finally like, bing! All right, we back. So I'm just at this place to where a lot of things are becoming clear. Clarity is definitely showing up for me. Acceptance is showing up for me. And just like honoring the grief process. And I'm ready to release and let go. You know, like, yeah, this was my experience. And it's like, you know, I'm ready to share it. I'm ready to be that gift to the world. I'm ready to share my gifts again, because I stopped doing a lot of stuff. I used to do readings. I haven't done a card reading in a minute. Hell, I haven't really done an intuitive reading in a while either. I've done pendulum readings here and there, but it's like I really stopped tapping in with the gifts, my inner divine gifts, like my intuition. Like, I don't know, it was just like all put on pause because everything else was just so heavy to where it was just foggy, where it was just like, you know. And then I really didn't have that energy to really expend into giving readings, and I honored that. So I stopped doing them because I wouldn't want somebody showing up to a reading with some fucked up ass energy. And it's not to say my energy was fucked up, but I mean, just like your energy is not grounded, it's not stable, like emotionally you're all over the place. Like, how can you read somebody else if you're not okay with them, right? How can you show up for somebody and you're unstable? You know what I mean? And so I had to get my shit together. I had to get me together so that I can come back into the world and, you know, be me authentically and continue to inspire others as I was doing. You know, people ask, okay, well, what's your dream? And for me, being an inspiration has always been a dream of mine. And it doesn't mean that I want to be famous. Like, I'm not saying like that, but just being an inspiration, you know. And you never really realize who you're inspiring unless they come forth, right? But you'd be surprised by how many people watch you on the internet, and not like in a creepy stalker way, but they just come across your content and they may not like it or, you know, comment at the time that they see it, and your story hits them, or your, you know, your expression of self touches them in some way. Your words are healing to their soul, right? You'll be surprised. And that's why it's important to just show up. To just show up, to just be present, to just push yourself out there. You know, I've had people over the years come to me and just tell me like, oh, you inspired me to do X, Y, and Z. And I just be shocked because I'm just like, wow. You know, it's always beautiful to hear. And I hold that dear to me. Like, you know, it makes my heart smile. And so like, I feel good now. I do. I feel like I finally made it through the trenches. And I really want to say this. It's like a part of me, like my inner divine feminine wants to be like, I'm back, bitches. But yeah. So through it all, the healing has been a slippery slope, a up and down battle. I surrendered a few times. I was like, okay, I'll wave the white flag. But hitting rock bottom is never the end. It's simply just the catalyst to reawakening your soul. That's just how I see it. Because when you climb your way out and make your way back to the top, you're a whole new person with more wisdom and gifts to share. That's how I look at it. So, before I close this out, I do have a question for you. What part of your story can you take and turn it into a gift for the world, for the collective? How much of your pain are you ready to transmute and wrap it as a gift to express to the world? What is it that you experienced that could potentially be a saving grace for somebody else? Because you never know how hard your story, your words, your pain, your healing, the grief you once held, right? The betrayal you once felt, the dark night of the soul that you made your way through. You never know how you sharing that could potentially save someone's life. So I ask you, in what ways can you take your experiences, your pain, your healing, your trauma, your grief, and transmute it into something that can bring healing to others? You never know. Could be a domino effect. That's all I have for y'all. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for holding space and sharing space for me within your day or your night. I really appreciate it. Y'all been rocking with me for 4 years now, off and on. But y'all always come back and listen whenever I do post a video. Not a video, post the audio, a new episode. And I appreciate that, for real. I really do. To my loyal listeners, to my new listeners, I love y'all. From those that have been here since day one, back in 2022, y'all the real MVPs. And I fucks with y'all a long way. My naked truthers. I've been thinking about making that like a community. The Naked Truthers community. That sounds wild, right? I even thought about making some merchandise with it too. We'll see what happens. But thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being you. Until next time, I love y'all. Peace.